I'm calling this meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So be it. Chancellor, has the notice of this meeting been posted?
Yes, Chair, I certify that the notice of this regular meeting has been posted in accordance with the law. Thank you.
Any public comment?
We have one person for public comment, Dr. Shashanka Sheely.
Okay.
Morning, everyone. The board, Chair Stoma, Chancellor Castillo, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Before I start, Chancellor Castillo, thank you so much for inviting me to your office. It's very kind of you. Whether I stand here or there, I am always rooting for your success.
Thank you.
And Trustee Mesa, congratulations. And I hope some fresh ideas will come in. So hope I'll see some change. With that, let me start. So far, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Shashanka Ashuli. I'm running against Chair Stoma, so that's a disclaimer out. Some of you might have already seen me before. So in the past few meetings, I introduced myself and highlighted some of the shortcomings of this board. In this meeting, I would like to discuss the platform that I'm running on, that I released recently. Some of you might have seen already. A plan that will put Lone Star on a national and global map, and a plan that will make students the cornerstone of this institution, and a plan that makes accountability a top priority so the executives with fancy titles are noticed. I'm not a rubber stamping guy. I'm more of a go big or go home guy. So here is what I propose. 100,000 students over the next decade. That's the goal I'm proposing. Lofty, fancy. Some elites might say nonsense. But as this board knows, I'm a numbers guy. I have my numbers to back it up. So far, the college hovered around 85K plus or minus. And the administration is using Power BI apps to showcase all the numbers. So I looked into that. We have around 22% of recent grad enrollment from our local ISDs into LSC. Across different ISDs, the number varies between 20 and 25%. So that means there's a lot of opportunity for growth. How can we bring more grad seniors into LSC? So the simple solution is start offering some courses that actually matter to the students, that won't saddle them with debts and degrees that won't pay their debts, that gives an edge to students in the job marketing place, that makes students proud to join LSC. How are we going to pay? Start enforcing accountability across the college. I just scratched the surface, found $4 million wastage in the last 1 year. If I dig deeper and expand into multiple years, I'm confident I can find more. As I mentioned last time, had that 4 million, we could have started innovation today by establishing a department of artificial intelligence. Here we are, wasted 4 million with no accountability. To the students of this community, I share your excitement for the future and anxiety about the job market. As a scientist and an entrepreneur, I spent years navigating both academic and private business. Do you want an elite or a scientist who is going to fight to give you an edge in your career? Think about that when you step into the voting booth. To the faculty and staff, I am one of you. The only difference is that after completing your education, you chose to work in the academy, while I chose to work outside and interfacing with it. Think about the moments where you wished the board would understand your pain. Do you trust the elite politicians, or do you want one of your own? The choice is yours. To the taxpayers, like you, I believe in not wasting money. Like you, I believe in American exceptionalism. And as a parent, I constantly worry about the future of my kids, just like you do. Think about it when you vote. An elite, politician, or a scientist who shares your values. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Then I do have one introduction I have to make. Trustee Danny Mesa is our new elected trustee representing District 2. Trustee Mesa, we want to welcome you here and say that we are happy to have you and add your voice to this committee. It's important. And I want to say thank you for running and thank you for being here. So if there are any issues, you can certainly talk to me or the chancellor, or any one of us actually, who can help you out. And it's just going to take you a little while to get oriented, but hey, you're here for the next 6 years. So, Chancellor, do you have any?
Thank you, sir.
introduction?
Chair, could I have the floor for a moment? Chair, could I have the floor for a moment?
Test. Is that better? Better?
Chancellor, would you ask the chair if I could have the floor for a moment? Could I have the floor for a moment?
Say again, please.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. I know we all want to say it. I'm just going to say it. So welcome aboard. And you'll find us to be a collegial group of people that are here for good reasons. You ran a hard race. You won. Trustee Pierce is in the audience and she'll be a friend forever. I'm happy to say that publicly and I would welcome you to take her place and do a good job for your community. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or congratulations? Well, you have all our congratulations for sure. Chancellor. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say what,
I think all these mics probably need a bit of adjusting, folks.
I'm on now.
There you go.
I just want to ditto what was just said. Welcome. You'll do a fine job. And I am glad to see Ms. Pierce in the audience. Thank you for being here today. And you'll do a fine job. Thank you.
Chairman,
Okay.
may I have the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. Danny, we're extremely happy and proud to have you here, and we'll know you do a really, really good job. But I also want to address, Trustee or Ernestine Pierce, who's here with us. And if I may, I know she did not have the opportunity to kind of say a few words and say a few words to her constituency. So Trustee Pierce, if you would like, and if I can, give you the floor to, if you would like to say a few words.
Sure,
I know we're
Trustee
not
Pierce,
given the
would you like to
opportunity.
come forward?
Trustee Salazar, can you hear me? Okay, you put me on the spot, but when I had decided to run back, and that was, well, before 2018, I remember when I was called by Harris County, one of the, excuse me, I got a peppermint. One of the LULAC of all deaf people asked me if I wanted to be part of a lawsuit for single member districts, and I said, I'm in, because I knew the judge who was doing this. But anyway, I said, I'm in. So I said, when I retired, I would run. But because I have an education background, I knew the ups and downs, and I did run, and I ran because I'm a change agent, whatever you want to call me. That's what I am. And I had, it wasn't about anything but about students and what I'd heard about Lone Star making it better, because I'm a person of secondary ed. So I ran, I won, and I did my best to work with, my colleagues to try to bring about change and make everything, a little better. It's all for the better. But single member districts are what they are. You represent different segments of the community, and it's not just a broader, it's not just about just one segment. It's about all, and that's what I'm about. I am about fairness, period. Now, I will say this. I know y'all are counting me out. Don't count me out too soon now, because the fat judge hasn't sung yet. And so I'm at these meetings because I want to know what's going on. He hasn't sung. So let's, come on now, just kind of remember that. A federal judge has a lot of power. I'm just telling you. I live in a legal profession. I know, a little, you come up to a judge, you might say, we was petitioning this, but the judge decides he might have a D section that he says, okay, this is what I'm going to rule on. not what y'all asked me. So I know these things, but anyway, whether I'm on here or out, I plan to work with El Chancellor. We did a lot of things, and while I'm up here, I'm just gonna take the privilege of saying this. I heard a rumor that there would be an attempt to move this venue back to the Woodlands. Let me say this, it hasn't cost one dime for these meetings to be held here. Let me say something else. The whole idea behind this move was to be more inclusive. Most of your tax-paying dollars come from Harris County. Most of your constituents are in Harris County. Remember, there is a majority minority student body here of whom reside in Harris County. Now, it hadn't cost anything there, and quote me if I'm wrong, there are no bus lines that go to the Woodlands. There are no bus lines. So all of this about inclusivity, you leaving a whole lot of people out. You can't get transportation to that. I would advise the board to be adults. Let's not be petty and petulant and go back and forth, because we do have a runoff. And like I said, the fat judge hasn't sung yet. And let's be mature. Let's be adults about this. And then let's not be going back and forth, because eventually we're going to be in the media. And I'll be the first one to be in the media, okay? Because I don't know what it's about, but I do know what it's about, but I'm gonna let you decide what you think it is. It's petty, it's immature, and it's petulant. So I'm advising my colleagues on the board, even though I'm not on the board technically anymore, don't do that. Don't do that, because it's not costing anything. It's petty, it's petulant. And I'm willing to say, I'll just say it, it's against El Chancellor and former Trustee Pierce. That's how I see this, vindictive. We ought to be beyond that as a board. We ought to be looking forward. This has been wonderful. I look at the students here, they all speaking when I come in, it's life over here. We're not just going back to an old building and then coming back, just, leaving and nothing is going on. That's just my plea to the board. That's it. Hey, guys, I've enjoyed working with you. You'll be seeing me a lot, and, I don't know. We don't know what the future holds, but thank you. I'm gonna miss hearing about Trustee Votes' grandchildren. We have our little song. We talk about our grandchildren. Also, I will miss the golden girl, Miss Blanche, because as Trustee Wilson said, we girly. We love our perfume and we love our lipstick, but that's us. And I'm gonna miss Trustee Wilson yelling at me to, Trustee, da 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 da. And I miss Miriam, quiet spoken, but she's a giant, just quiet. But I'm gonna miss everybody anyway. And even bantering back and forth with the chair and Trustee Kane. I'm gonna miss all of this, but I will not, I'm gonna be a guest visitor all the time, because I do wanna know what's going on and I do care. Thank you guys so much. It's been a privilege.
Thank you.
To El Chancellor.
Yes. Trustee Kane?
I too want to thank Trustee Pierce for her service to the board, and as she pointed out, the future is yet to be determined. I also want to recognize Mr. Meza. I had a nice conversation last week, and welcome to the Board of Trustees.
I
Trustee
changed my
May?
mind. Can I speak after all?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. My name is Daniel Mesa. I go by Danny as well sometimes. I'm happy to be here. I'm your new trustee for District 2 for the meanwhile, like Ms. Pierce said. But I'll enjoy it as much as I can, and I hope to continue serving and serve the college system and the constituents. I'm a graduate of Lone Star College, North Harris. I graduated almost 10 years ago from North Harris, and I was inspired there by my professor. First of all, I made it to North Harris through a counselor at Spring High School. I was a little bit of a slacker in high school, so although I took the SAT and the ACT, I didn't actually apply to any colleges. That doesn't make much sense, does it? But my counselor brought me into her office and she had me sign a piece of paper. I didn't even know what it was, but I signed it. I did what she told me to do, and it ended up being $1,000 to go to Lone Star North Harris, and that started my education. And once I got there, I loved it, and I won another $500 by winning a poetry contest there. And as I mentioned, I was inspired by a professor. His name is Tony Diaz, and I was actually vice president of the Latin American student organization there on campus. And all of those experiences that I had at Lone Star College North Harris I can truly and honestly say that if it wasn't for that, you know, there's no way I would be here. Who knows where I would be? I might still be working at Subway making sandwiches. So I'm just happy to be here, and I hope to serve the college and all the constituents, faculty, staff, students as best I can. Thank you.
Sure, we certainly welcome your perspective. Absolutely. Any other comments? Sure? Okay. I need to call for a motion for approval of the minutes, of the November. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry.
You gotta jump in.
Thank you. I'm trying. Okay. So most of my thunder has already been stolen. So I did want to make sure that, you know, one of the things that I think particularly Trustee Sullivan, you've always said over the years that I've sat on this is that when citizens come and they speak on matters, even if we can't engage with them right then and there because of the laws that apply to the Texas Open Meetings Act, um, that we should always sort of acknowledge and try to follow up with them to make sure that we do that. And so I did meet with Dr. Ashili, who's running in District 1 a few weeks ago. I thought it went well. I was hoping to see how he thought it went. So I'm glad to see. So I did want to, one of the pieces of feedback that he gave me that I am going to recommend to the board is that in future elections, we do a better job of giving each candidate space either on our website or a third-party website to put their platforms on where we can have a neutral Q&A so that people that are looking for sort of what are people's platforms know something sponsored by the college itself. These are the things that this person is running on. And another piece of feedback that he gave to me personally that I'm taking to heart is that we should recognize the candidates that are in the audience when they come to the board meeting. And so he's already spoken, but I did want to recognize, because as I told him, the best apology is change behavior. So I did want to recognize Dr. Ashili, who's sitting right there, and then right next to him is former trustee Ernestine Pierce as well. I also wanted to announce, and I did also want to recognize our new trustee, Trustee Mesa, who I've also met with already. And then we do have some promotions that I wanted to announce. So I am gonna put him on the spot. Dr. Matthew Dempsey, will you please come on down? Yes. So Dr. Dempsey survived a several-month process, second only to the chancellor search process, of multiple rounds of interviews. 175 people applied. Thank you to HR, by the way. HR did a great job of sourcing candidates. It was one of the things that I taught to Dr. Kishvala, who is now the supervisor of the college presidents, is it a hard decision? Is it a hard decision to decide who gets this job? If the answer is yes, then it was a real search, and whoever ends up being the person can rest assured that they earned it. And so Dr. Matthew Dempsey is the new president of Lone Star College, University Park. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Only one word can describe how I've felt in the past week, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving, but mostly just how I've reflected upon the search, the journey of what was and what's yet to come. The word is grateful. Board, Chancellor, I'm grateful for what you have done in investing in my future at Lone Star College. The development that I've received as a leader since the very first day I got here. Thank you. I am grateful. I'm grateful for you entrusting in me the success of University Park. I hope to honor that investment in both word and in deed. I'm grateful for what you do in service of our students on all of our campuses. I am grateful for being supported by the people who run our labs, who keep our facilities beautiful, who keep our computers computing all day long, day in and day out. I'm grateful for our amazing faculty that keep finding innovative ways to challenge and inspire our students. I'm grateful to our community leaders who go out into the community and become our biggest cheerleaders and our biggest champions. They know the value of our institution and they understand our mission. I'm grateful for the students, for the very day they arrive here with their dreams until the day they turn that tassel to go forth and contribute to our economy and to thrive in our communities, improved by the experiences that they received here at Lone Star College System. I'm grateful for those that surround me. I have some of the best colleagues that anyone could ever work with. Board, chancellor, colleagues, faculty, staff, students, community. Because of everything that you do, I am grateful because it lays a foundation for my personal success and the future success of Lone Star College University Park. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you.
And second, we had as I explained to the board, we had a vacancy in the Vice Chancellor of Strategic Engagement and Communications. And so the interim is Dr. Prince. So Dr. Prince, come on down.
Good morning. I have no prepared remarks, but I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity. It's a wonderful honor and pleasure to work for this institution. And in any ways that I can use the skills and talents that I have to make things better for our students and for our staff and our faculty, I appreciate that opportunity. So board, chancellor, faculty, staff, and guests, thank you very much.
That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I ask for a motion for approval of the minutes of the November 7th, 2024 regular meeting and the November 19th, 2024 special meeting. And do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then the item passes. Special reports and announcements, Chancellor.
Yes, I have a few. So first, we had the 31st annual Foundation Golf Tournament and Awards Dinner. That was on November 18th. I want to thank several of the trustees were there. Chancellor Emeritus Head was also there. It was nice to see him. That was at the Woodlands Country Club. We also had the much-awaited Houston North topping out ceremony for the Victory expansion. And that was on November 20th. And so topping out is essentially what I understand. And there was a much better explanation from the people that are building it there. But essentially, it's when you put like the last beam on the structure. And so the reason is because if you remember, we had to reschedule the groundbreaking. And so topping out is basically like a makeup date for the groundbreaking. So that was on November 20th. And then we had on November 21st, we swore in Trustee Mesa. So Trustee Mesa was sworn in on November 21st here at System Office UP in the Universe Room. We had Watts again at System Office The Woodlands on November 22nd. And then we obviously had the Thanksgiving holiday from November 27th to December 1st. And I had a great Thanksgiving. For those of you wondering, it was the first Thanksgiving that I didn't have to host. So I literally just showed up somewhere, ate, and then sat on the couch and washed no dishes. And so it was amazing. We have the forthcoming events. Chancellor's Holiday Luncheon is on December 10th at System Office The Woodlands. And then the holiday luncheon here at System Office UP is December 12th. And I don't think this is a reminder most people need, but remember, winter holiday starts from December 19th to January 2nd. And right after we get back, we're going to have Watts at North Harris on January 10th from 9:30 to 11. And then, of course, we have the MLK holiday coming up on January 20th. And so, again, the way we do Watts, which is what's word on the street, which is the Chancellor Forum, is we do them in the order in which the colleges came into the system. So if you know your Lone Star history, you know what comes after North Harris. And so North Harris is a great way to start the year in January. And those are the events that we have. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Hear from the Chancellor's Cabinet, Bridget Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget Johnson, Executive Vice Chancellor of Operations, and I'm here today to talk to you about property services. And you may be wondering, what is that? So property services, I'll say formerly known as facilities and construction. So I'm here to share that with you today. All right, so I want to start off just highlighting my amazing cabinet. I'm at a place that I have a full cabinet now, so I'm very excited. And so if Chair Selma, Board, if you don't mind, I'd like to recognize them. So my executive assistant, Cassie, if you could wave. All right, Cassie has been my EA for the past couple of weeks now, so she's the newest member. Kaylee Vondervoor, who is serving as my chief of staff. She's there in the back. Dolores Rios. All right, Dolores is our chief business officer. She handles all of the fiscal responsibilities as it relates to property services. So that division fiscal load is about 100 million. And so she's the person that's overseeing contracts, all of those fun things. We all know Chris Williams here, our CIO. And then one of the second newest member is Edgar Montezuma. He's our new chief property officer. And so he will work with me hand in hand as it relates to property services. So I'll go ahead and dive in to the presentation. So thank you, team. All right, so you may ask the question, well, why property services? Why this name change? What is it that property services handles? So prior to merging the facilities and facilities construction area, that type of work, though, that functional work was handled across 3 different functional areas in the organization. So it depends. I'll use this one space. If you're in the hallway, it's one person to call. If you're in the cafeteria, you will call a different person. If you were in building 11, it would be a totally different person. And so we looked at that and said, how is it that we can make this better? How can we streamline it? And how can we become more efficient? And so we took all of those things, combined them, and now it's oftentimes in the industry, you'll hear the people that build the things and the people that maintain the things. So now we're all one family, and that's property services. So some of the benefits that you'll see right off the bat with combining these areas is that we'll have space to have streamlined and transparent processes. Because as I mentioned, when some of the functional tasks are spread across various areas, it's a lot of confusion. And I can tell you, I've worked in the space for 6+ years, and you wouldn't know who to go to, who's handling this. So now it all sits and resides in one functional space. The goal is also to have a more cohesive approach to how we handle business. As you can see, we do a various different tasks from contracts, life cycle management with assets. The goal is to have a space that we have a collective, cohesive process to where if you go to one campus, things are handled in a certain manner, look a certain way, have the same frequencies of different service work. That's the goal, is that we're going to have a more cohesive approach. An example that comes to mind right off is we looked into how do we handle mail, something as simple as mail service. And when working with the teams, it's handled 5 different ways. Not to say that one way is better than the other, but they're different. So that could potentially mean different service levels. So we're working through some of those things. And then also maximizing our talent and reducing silos. So a great example of that is at one of our campuses, our new chief property officer, as he did his round, said, you know what, Bridget, that landscaping could use a little TLC. So guess what he did? He right away said, I'm going to pull the landscaping team from this campus, from this campus, from this campus, and we're all going to go help one campus. We're going to all go in and help. It's not a silo. Like, oh, that's not my campus. So we're doing that to where we can build and leverage our talent. All right, so of course, we can't do that alone. So I wanted to highlight our property services leadership team. So these are all of our property services directors across each campus. And you see, we do have one vacancy that we're looking to fill that position soon. But these are your team members that make sure that all the things on the campuses happen. And I really want to highlight not only these leaders, but our frontline team members, because oftentimes facilities type of work is a thankless kind of role. You know, I can count maybe on one hand how many times someone has ever told me in my 30 years of doing this, Bridget, thank you so much. When I came in, the lights came on. Or, hey, Bridget, when I went to wash my hands, the water came on. Thank you. It's an expectation. And so the goal that we have as a team is that we want to exceed everyone's expectations when it comes to the work that we do for our faculty, students, and staff. So just some quick metrics. So what is it and how much do we handle? So we have north of 6.8 million building square feet that we maintain, and that's across 7 physical campuses, 13 centers, University Park, and then we also have System Office Woodlands. Part of that work across our facilities, just last year, we processed 35,000 work orders. Work orders are, we need to do this thing, and the team goes out and they handle it. And I think that number is very modest because sometimes the team will just, if a person stops them, hey, can you come hang this for me? And of course, we want to provide a very high level of service. They'll do that. So I'll say that this is a very modest number, but it's also a very hefty number. All right, so here are some of the functional tasks. I won't spend too much time, but we handle everything from our HVAC, keys, locks, irrigation, landscaping, painting, plumbing, electrical, event setups, custodial, all of these different things, all of our complex mechanical systems, elevators, all the things from an operational standpoint. We have an amazing team that handles that. So for our construction and our renovation areas, for FY25, we were budgeted and the board approved about 13.3 million for R&R. We are going into a space where we're really looking at and putting a focus on North Harris and the Tomball campus. We've all heard our chancellor mention that, and looking at the work and things that needs to go on there. North Harris is our oldest campus. It was built 1974. I'm proud to say I wasn't born then, but closely, shortly thereafter. But we have buildings that are 50 years old, and some of them look like it, and if I can be very transparent there. And so we need to do the work to now shift into more of a remodel, modernization, because if we have students that's coming to one campus, it should look the same and feel the same, because we want to have an experience of our students that we're Lone Star. And this is the level of service, and this is the type of expectation you should expect if you come to a Lone Star College building. It doesn't matter what piece of dirt it actually sits on, okay? So currently we have about 70 active projects working across different funding areas. But as I mentioned, we're really looking and putting a system-wide focus on both North Harris and our Tomball campus. So it'll be more to come in that area. So not only do we just maintain and keep up with our campuses, we also have some furry and non-furry friends that can cause ruckus across the system. So just yesterday or day before, we had a squirrel that took 3 buildings out at our North Harris campus. He got a little hungry, but power line was not the way to go for him. So we do deal with some of these things. Just thought I'll throw that in there. The picture you see on the bottom right, that was a picture I personally took. I went to the trash can to throw something in, and he literally waved and hissed. So all the fun things there. All right, in all seriousness, so Bridget, what do you have? What do you have that's coming up? We're looking to build and get a current state. What is our current state? When was the last time we did certain types of things? So I want, we're partnering with our procurement team, and we're working on sourcing a vendor to come out and give us a current state look of our mechanics, our structural, every building across the entire system. So you'll be seeing that coming up soon. Our goal is to then have a capital improvement plan. Once we have this, then we can go through, and it should be very easy to see and have a very standardized approach on how we do R&R. And again, master planning, space planning, and just revitalizing our campus. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have an improved experience for both in classroom, out of the classroom, faculty, students, staff, and that is the goal of what property services is. And this, I had to show this. This was a wonderful picture of 8 days in to this new model. You see our OTS team meeting with contractors. We had our facilities contractors, in-house team, everyone pulled together, and we were able to be successful when it came to recovering from Hurricane Beryl. So I wanted to highlight and thank my team for all of their hard work. And with that, if you guys have any questions, I can answer for you.
Questions, comments?
I'd like to pose a question.
Yes, sir.
I know that we've looked at it in the past. I wonder if we could look at it again, going into carbon reduction, looking at solar seems to be the most obvious one. And with the transition in our automobiles that seems to be moving right along, are we doing anything yet about providing recharging platforms?
Not at this time, but that's definitely something that we can look at. I know we're starting off developing and building a sustainability program as it relates to recycling. It's kind of touch and go throughout the system. So Edgar is already on top of that, looking at how can we start there, but we can definitely take a look at that.
Okay. Can you give us reports back on?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead.
I
Yes.
recognize, thank you. One of the items you mentioned was facilities assessment, which makes sense. Do we have the talent, skill, and expertise internally for that, or should we consider outside sources for expertise?
It would be professional services. It wouldn't be in-house talent. Doing those structural assessments, you really need licensed engineers and talent that could give us that.
Okay, that was going to be my recommendation. So
Yes,
would
sir.
that likely come to the board?
Yes, sir.
As a contractor.
That's, you'll see it soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, folks? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update. Faculty Senate. You want for Faculty Senate? Step right up.
Sampada, yes. Good morning, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Castillo. I can move forward. Colleagues and community members, good morning. My name is Sampada Chavan Dalvi, and I am Faculty Senate President of Lone Star College, Kingwood. As a Faculty Senate President, I consider it to be my responsibility to shed light on the achievements and highlights of some of my colleagues, and I have chosen to bring to you the journey of a few of my peers who, like me, left their home country to create a new life in the United States and found their career at Lone Star College. They started their education in their native countries and then moved thousands of miles to settle down in the US, giving their own spin to Lone Star College's slogan of "Start close, go far." International faculty bring their own essence to a college and can be quite beneficial to any educational institution. Firstly, having international faculty as a part of LSE reflects the diversity in our own student body. International students will be inspired to become a part of our increasingly diverse college when they see faculty members with names similar to theirs. Moreover, students who have never left Texas will be motivated to walk in the footsteps of faculty who have moved far away from home. And finally, international faculty help create global opportunities for students by means of cultural exchanges. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to some of my colleagues that I had the pleasure of getting to know better as I set about making this presentation. Professor Rajiv Malkan comes from Mumbai, India. After receiving a bachelor's degree from University of Mumbai, he got 2 masters and a PhD at universities in the US. Professor Malkan's education in India did not necessarily depend on textbooks. While his classes in the US do use a textbook, he ensures that his students have a solid understanding of concepts and theory. He believes that he adds an international flavor to his teachings by bringing his knowledge of how the other side of the world works, and he asks his students to broaden their horizons beyond Houston and Texas. Marie Carmen Marin, professor of English, grew up in the city of Almeria in Spain. She received both her bachelor's and doctoral degrees in Spain. While growing up, Professor Marin dreamed of being able to use the English language on a daily basis. She wanted to not only learn the English language, but also excel in it and teach her students that everything we learn in class can be applied to the real world. Professor Marin values diversity and believes that we are all citizens of the world and share the same feelings. Here's Professor Marin dressed up as Wednesday for Halloween with some of her students. Biology professor Milton Kande grew up in the Western African country of Sierra Leone. He did his primary, secondary, and university schooling in a town called Njala and went to Texas A&M Prairie View for grad school. Because of the financial struggles that his family faced when he was growing up, Professor Kande has learned resiliency and the ethics of hard work, and he imparts those values to his students too. He encourages students to not drop the courses they are in and urges them to keep striving towards their goals. Close to Professor Kande, but far away from us, Professor Solomon Ugbaja, who teaches computer science at LSE, grew up in Nigeria. He went to Florida Institute of Technology for grad school. Professor Ugbaja had not intended to become an instructor, but has used his formative years in Nigeria to shape his teaching philosophy. In the class, Professor Ugbaja takes care to express and communicate technological concepts and innovations to his students. In the short while that he has been teaching, Professor Ugbaja has noted that his biggest joy is to see his students graduate and move on to the next phase of their lives. Professor Maria Federico Okai comes to Lone Star College from Bologna, Italy, where she received her bachelor's and her master's degrees. Here she is at her master's graduation. As an English instructor at Lone Star, Professor Federico Okai focuses on her students' personal and professional development. She brings the high rigor of the Italian school system to her own classrooms. Her presence in the classroom is critical in showing her students that being an ESL speaker is not an obstacle for their professor, and it should not stop them from improving their own reading and writing skills. Professor Mari Omori from my home campus of LSE Kingwood came here all the way from Japan. Professor Omori grew up in the Chiba prefecture of Japan and went to UCLA for grad school. As a fan of American culture, coming to America felt natural to her. Professor Omori considers her subject art to be a universal language. Her skill in the classroom is that she not only has a different perspective, but also a different perception, observation, and an ability to discover art. Professor Omori views learning as not just climbing steps, but going up a spiral stairway while gaining knowledge and confidence. Figen Bekisli is a physics professor who comes from a small town in West Turkey. Here she is at her college graduation in Turkey. She received her PhD in physics at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. Professor Bekisli empathizes with students who face a language barrier in higher ed because she faced those challenges herself. She treats these students with empathy and approaches her classroom with the knowledge that everyone has their unique cultures. As a shy person herself, she modifies her lectures to fit all types of personalities and learning styles while making connections with students and helping them build their strengths into success stories. Lone Star also has faculty who have come from nearer locations, like Professor Amlan Datta, who spent part of his life in the UK. Instead of being a sage on stage while he's in class, Professor Datta takes a more collaborative approach with his students. With his hands-on style of teaching, he hopes that students see learning as more of an adventure. Stephanie Frideres, professor of art, comes from Canada, and in her classes, she teaches her students about understanding the expectations at a four-year university. Her pedagogy is led by her international experience and understanding of cultural differences. She thinks that her biggest achievement is seeing her students go on to work in studio art or becoming practicing artists or teachers themselves. We started our journey in Mumbai, and I'm taking you back there because that's where I come from also. Here's a 7-year-old me standing in front of a blackboard pretending to be an educator. Little did I know that 30 years later, I would be doing that for a living at Lone Star College. I came to the US to go to grad school as a naive 20-something student. University of Houston gave me a doctoral degree, but Lone Star College gave me a part of my identity. Here is where I found my students who shower me with love. Here is where I was able to hone my knowledge, skills, and love for being in the classroom. Here is where I found so many things that inspire me, like my stellar colleagues who were kind enough to share their journeys with me, or my students who teach me new things every day, like turning my drab presentation into one that looked like this. Japan, India, Turkey, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Italy, Spain, United Kingdom, and Canada. These are just some of the countries where a few of our international faculty have come from. We started close to home, but look how far we've come. Thank you. I'll leave some room for questions and comments.
Questions, comments?
So thank you so much, Professor. And I just want to share with the board that a world-class education requires people from throughout the world. So thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you. American Federation of Teachers, Dr. Bergdorf.
Good morning. My name is Dr. John Bergdorf, and I am the president of the American Federation of Teachers at Lone Star College. We would like to take this opportunity to welcome new trustee Daniel Mesa and to congratulate returning trustee Mike Sullivan on their recent elections. You, together with the continuing members of the board, have taken on an awesome responsibility. According to the Lone Star College Policy Manual, it is the trustees who are ultimately accountable to the community we serve for the college's performance and welfare. Our taxpayers count on you to ensure that their investments are handled legally, ethically, and responsibly. Our students count on you to assure that they are receiving an education that they can afford and that will ultimately help them build a better life for themselves and their loved ones. Our employees count on you to oversee an administrative structure that values our experience and credentials, welcomes our participation in the governance of the college, and supports us in our work so that we can most effectively teach and provide services to the students we love. It is indeed an awesome responsibility you have accepted, but one which we hope will bring you a great deal of satisfaction, especially as you see the positive impact Lone Star College makes in the lives of nearly 90,000 students. We also want to take a minute to thank outgoing trustee Ernestine Pierce for her 6 years of very fine service to this board. And we wish well both Mr. Michael Stoma and Dr. Shashanka Ashili, who are currently in a runoff, and that decision will be made in about a week. Thanks to all of the candidates actually who participated in the voter guide that we included in our union newsletter, which went out to all employees, which gave you a chance to present your point of view, your credentials, and your platform. We in the American Federation of Teachers would also like to take this opportunity to introduce ourselves to those of you we are meeting for the first time and reintroduce ourselves to those we already know. We are the employee union here at the college. Because the state of Texas does not grant collective bargaining rights to public employees, membership in the AFT is completely voluntary. Over our 44-year history, we have grown to be a large and robust organization with approximately 500 members. The AFT welcomes faculty, staff, and entry-level administrators, both full-time and part-time employees, representing all disciplines, all departments, and all campuses. All of us have joined the organization because of our profound concern for Lone Star College, and you will find that we work hard to help our college reach its full potential. We advocate for people and for policy. For people, we assist our members when they face difficulties at work. We provide advice and resources, and when needed, representation to assure that all employees have access to due process. For policy, we strive to work with the administration and the board on an array of issues that benefit the entire college community. Over the years, we have advocated for fair salaries and benefits that reflect the professionalism of our employees and the growing cost of living. We have advocated for due process rights for all employees and for civil rights for all members of the college community, students, faculty, staff, and administrators. We have advocated for educational policies and structures that enhance learning opportunities for our students, especially those who are most in need, come from underrepresented populations, and who are the first in their families to attend college. Ultimately, the union champions collaborative governance. When faculty and staff are included in the decision-making processes of the college, and when they feel safe, supported, and valued, the ultimate beneficiaries are our students. That is what AFT strives for. Other members of our union and I attend most board meetings. We are greatly appreciative of having a place on the agenda to speak on behalf of our employees and our students. We look forward to getting to know all of you who we've known for a while and those we're meeting for the first time, and hope to work with you for the benefit of the college. And I have to apologize because basically as soon as I finish, I am off to teach college algebra at the Westway Park Technology Center, so I'll be leaving shortly. Thank you, board members, both new and returning, for taking on the solemn task of overseeing this great undertaking we call Lone Star College. AFT welcomes you and wishes you all the best. Thank you very much.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, sir. Board members, any comments, reports from board members? Trustee Kane?
Thank you, Chair. I had an opportunity yesterday to be on the Montgomery campus. Had chance to observe a classroom. It was Psychology 2301. And the instructor was a gentleman that I've known for many, many years. It was a great class. It was the end of the semester. The students were talking about their semester projects, and was really great to be there. Always good to be on the Montgomery campus. And Dr. Reedhart, I want to thank you very much for your hospitality.
Trustee Mason?
Thank you. I was at the East Aldine Center this week for their Winter Wonderland event, and very well. We had some high school students. I, by the way, work for Aldine ISD, doing civic engagement there, and so we partner a lot with Lone Star. And we had some students come and decorate Christmas ornaments, create Christmas cards. I want to give a shout out to Clint. They're at the East Aldine Center, Clint and Armando, who were very receptive and put on a great event for the students. We had community members come with their families as well. And so I think it was a good event, and I want to continue seeing more of that on our campuses. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments? Trustee Wilson?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I went to the topping off service or event at my Victory campus, which is very, very exciting. We had a great turnout. And I'm just excited for the things that Lone Star is doing, because it has been a long time coming for that campus. And so to see the excitement of the people that were there to help celebrate that, so we can push victory in Houston North forward it was awesome. So thank you, El Chancellor, Dr. Wright, for y'all due diligence and hard work, and to, of course, the community, because, you know, the community is very patient. So, and I want to thank everybody who was a part of it. I just want to recognize University Park. I was on LinkedIn and I saw that they were recognized. They were honored among the 2024 All-In Most Engaged Campus for college students voting. So that means that the students voted and Lone Star was a part of that. So I think that speaks volumes to the leadership that we now have with the chancellor and his administration. And it goes to show that the students are watching, right? We might not see them physically, but they are watching, and they watch everything that we do. So we have to be very mindful, be thinking of them always in everything that we as a board do, faculty, staff. It doesn't matter to the custodian, to the person in the parking lot. We have to be very, very mindful because they do watch. And bad news travels fast, but good news is very hardly spoken of. So I would like to thank University Park Lone Star for all that you are doing for the students at this campus and every other campus as well. But this, to me, I thought this was awesome because to be recognized by students says a lot. So thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Vogt? Did you know? Anyone? Well, I have a couple of items. Thanks to the chancellor. Yesterday, Blockchain for Energy Consortium had their annual meeting and board meeting here at the college. Now, what does that mean? Well, Blockchain for Energy, I've been engaged with them since startup in 2019. They are the premier education, really, and R&D arm for the oil and gas industry and blockchain and artificial intelligence. They had their meeting here yesterday at University Park. I want to commend Nathan Kruger. He was the host and made sure that they had all that they needed. They were just delighted, by the way. They said thank you, and I'm saying thank you to both of you for hosting this meeting and being so gracious. But their members are Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips. I can keep going down the list of the major integrated oil and gas firms. And they are the R&D arm as far as blockchain and artificial intelligence. They have an application, just one application, that measures emissions, any emissions off of anything really, through IoT devices and formulates reporting to state, local governments, federal governments, but even more importantly now creates fungible tokens that can be traded on the open market. This is cutting edge stuff. This is futuristic stuff. And Chancellor, they would like to have a closer relationship with the college for seminars and instructions such. I said we'd be open to listening and talking with them about that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are there, quite honestly, as far as cutting edge. We just need to proliferate it like the industry needs to proliferate it for different uses, because it can only make money, it can save a lot of money. And we could save a lot of money here in our IS systems by adopting blockchain. I won't go any further to that because it becomes political, right? But I want to say thanks again. They said thank you. And Nathan, I just can't say enough. They were just singing your accolades and you helping them yesterday through all their things they had to do. I got a second one. Yes, there is a board runoff election on Saturday, December the 14th. It's the best kept secret in Harris County. Nobody knows about this election. I encourage you, if you live in District 1, I encourage you, your family, your friends, encourage your students over in there, and it's an education, just to go out and vote. That's the important thing, because it will make a difference. It's the only race on the ballot. There's no other. We're it. And your vote, their vote, everyone who votes in this election will count. And it will make a difference in the governance of this institution in the years to come. So I got a bias I'm trying to hide, but I have to say, get out and vote and make a difference in how this institution's governed. All right, that's all I have. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, we're going to rearrange the agenda a bit. Instead of going into the consent agenda, we're going to go into closed session. There are a couple of discussions we need to have before we can vote on the consent agenda. So the Board of Trustees, in accordance with Section 551001 of the Texas Government Code, will move into closed section under one of the following provisions of the Act: 551071, 551072, 074, and 076. I adjourn this meeting to go into closed session. We will be back. 6, convening the regular board meeting. We can now consider the consent agenda. Are there any items wish to be pulled for discussion? Okay,
22, 23, and 24.
got it. Anything else? All right, then I'm going to ask motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The items pass. Can I get a motion to hear discussion and vote for item 22?
Motion.
Second? The item is now open for discussion.
Trustee Stoneman, you put it on the thing, so I would like to know what's going on. I guess 22 and 23 go 10 in, like last time.
I think we took them one at a time last time. I believe we probably should do that this time. What do you think,
All right.
Council?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, we're gonna need to take them one at a time. So
That's-
discussion is open on item 22.
Can I ask why it's put back on the agenda? What's going on? Because we just made this change.
There were several requests made by other trustees to me to make this change.
Okay, can we hear those trustees? Since we're this on the agenda now, so let's talk.
Well, it's up to them to speak out.
Chair
Trustee
Solomon,
Sullivan.
be recognized. Thank you. Yes, I had reached out to the chair and said to him that since we are looking, we have a new trustee, the trustee that brought this forward and worked very hard to move the location is no longer part of the board. We haven't spent any money. We haven't done anything. It might be a healthy discussion for us to look at this one more time. And that was, I mean, just being very open, very honest about it. And that's, the chair agreed and said he'd put it on the agenda, and that's what I thought we should do, and just have a discussion. If we want to keep it, move forward, not move forward, and here's the agenda item. And Chair Stoneman, if I portrayed that incorrectly, please.
It's fairly accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So Trustee Wilson wasn't advocating. I have an opinion, and I think as we get the discussion going, I'll state my opinion. But it was more about where we are now and do we move forward?
Okay, I get it. I was
thank
just
you.
wondering, because it caught me, took me aback, because I think we spent so much time on this item and the next item over an hour, almost 2 hours discussing it, and how beneficial it is for UP and for us to stay with the people versus going to a location where there is no
personable interaction with, even with students, even just walking in, seeing students, walking in, seeing faculty, seeing people. It just kind of like negates the point that we fought so hard for to get it. So that was my reasoning for asking, because it just took me aback. But I appreciate you for even thinking about Trustee Meza, and you know what I'm saying, and wanted to have an open discussion.
May I respond, Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. For me, you might remember, and it's all recorded, you might remember I said, I never thought about changing location until it was brought up. I didn't have an opinion about it. And if it was important to one trustee and I was ambivalent, I'd be happy to support that trustee, and that's what I did. We've now had a couple of meetings here during the workday, and it has been a little more disruptive for me work-wise than I thought it would be. However, that's not a deal killer. If the board decides that we're going to stay here and continue to meet at 10:30, I'll be here, and I'll make arrangements, and it'll work out either way. So I prefer the evening and I prefer the Woodlands, but I'm more than happy to stay here if it's the will of the board, and you'll never hear anything about it from me again.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
And that's what we have open discussion.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? That's what it's for. That's why I asked what's going on. You know, but you know, I'm looking at as far, because I'm a student, so I look at a student. If I was a student and wanted to go, and I didn't have a car, how would I get there? You understand what I'm saying? And I think that was the point of Trustee Pierce bringing it, because the Woodlands is just not accessible to everyone, you know? And the times as well, especially, let's say you're on a bus line and the meeting starts at 5, but your bus is 30 minutes late or it broke down. You know what I mean? One of us might need, one of us might have car issues, and we might decide we need public transportation that day. But if the meeting's in the Woodlands, how we gonna get there? You know what I mean? And so I'm just like, we need to be where the people are, and where the students are. And I shared the article earlier, and I'm going to attribute the chancellor moving from the Woodlands to UP as being why there's more of a vibrant and happy campus life here, because you have people that you know, like, oh, these are the people in charge, but they're here. I remember the chancellor mentioned that he went, had lunch with the students. You know what I'm saying? That matters to me. They need to see us around, you know what I'm saying, on campus, whether it's for the meeting or we just visiting. They need to see the leadership here with them. You know what I mean? And I think that was the whole point of us doing it, because we need to be more inclusive and not exclusive. So that's my argument. That's for 22 and 23. So that's my point.
Any other discussions? Trustee King?
While I am not the one that initiated the reconsideration, I do support the move back to Research Forest. Now, you'll recall at the September board meeting, I gave my reasons for why I thought this was not a good idea to begin with. And I won't go through all those reasons again, but they really boil down to two major areas. One is financial. When it comes to the financial piece, keep in mind that just 5 years ago, our college invested over $871,000 to upgrade the boardroom on Research Forest. That's an incredible amount of money. And that boardroom is a perfectly good and suitable boardroom to hold board meetings in. That's primarily one of the reasons I had such a hard time understanding in the first place why we would abandon a perfectly good board meeting, especially when that amount of money had been put into it. Add to that the fact that if you now come here and spend a comparable amount of money to get a comparable boardroom, you're now looking at an inordinate amount of money. And as I pointed out in September, that money could be better spent on instructional programs and on students. And when you take those $2 figures and put them together, that is an incredible amount of money. That's unnecessary in my view. As far as the location of the board meeting, keep in mind that our community college is 2,700 square miles. So no matter where you are in our college district, you're going to have to travel. And travel may be convenient, it may be inconvenient, but you're going to have to travel. And the convenience is the second part of what I talked about in September. The convenience should be focused on the faculty, the staff, the students, and the general public. And when it comes to convenience, the Research Forest location, given the size and the scope of our community college, is every bit as convenient as this location at University Park. It just depends on where you live and where you're traveling from, where you're working, where your campus is, and so on and so forth. The other part of convenience goes into time, the time of day. And I know we're going to take that as a separate issue, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But from the standpoint of time, when you have a morning meeting, you are really cutting into the time that most faculty and staff members are teaching. And you're cutting into the time when a lot of members of the public would be at work. So I know I'm getting ahead of myself by talking about time, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But I think from the standpoint of just what makes the most sense from many different perspectives, I favor moving back to Research Forest.
Can I say something? Anybody?
Before,
Go
before.
ahead.
Anyone else have anything to say? Go ahead, Trustee Sullivan.
I give the floor to Trustee Wilson if, okay. So I wrote something last night in regards to these specific two items. I wanted to share my opinion with not only my colleagues, but also the guests and, the family that we are here. Trustee Sullivan, I appreciate you in letting us know why are we listening to this again. I didn't know then by the time I wrote this, but I just decided that it's imperative of me to be able to voice my opinion and my concern with these two items with you. So we're here today, once again, to discuss and amend the current policy section addressing the time and venue of our board meetings. I'd like to take this time to publicly apologize to you for having to hear us discuss these items once again. And I apologize to the Lone Star College staff for failing to be a consistent board. Currently, I believe we are unable to sustain what the majority has passed. We are a board that will sustain what the majority passed, or a board that will continue to add previous items to agenda until the results are agreeable to certain individuals. Because now you are setting the precedent that if a certain agenda item does not get approved by certain individuals, you are then putting the item back in the agenda over and over again until it reaches the approval of the few. I feel that we are politicking this one specific agenda item by taking advantage of a certain election results. Having said this, allow me the opportunity to briefly remind you of my colleagues' comments and votes during the September board meeting. So during the September board meeting, we had Trustee Murillo spoke his support. One of the things that I liked that he spoke about was the possibility of the board becoming a visiting, and I quote, visiting board, to host board meetings at other campuses as an opportunity to visit and learn from each other. Additionally, he spoke about the meeting at University Park without the need to spend funds, and I'll come back to that in just a second. Trustee Wilson, you spoke your support for this particular venue to host it here because it was more inclusive and it was more inclusive and we are more progressive board. That's what you said. She addressed the needs of the blue collar families and their struggle to join evening meetings for various reasons, including picking up their kids after school, picking up their kids late from practice, spending time with their children after work commitments. She also addressed that University Park is a centralized location, which is the same thing that you spoke right now, for many communities and organizations, in addition to being considerate of staff members and your time. Trustee Pierce, at the time, former Trustee Pierce at the time, she highlighted her support for this venue change to University Park, that this would have been an opportunity to make the board more accessible to the public. She's always said that. She believes and believed that the college belongs to the community, hence the name attributed to it, Community College. She also defined that the college is defined by the people, staff, educators, and students. She highlighted that the board is, by coming here, is a functional board. And then we have my colleague, Trustee Sullivan. He approved the venue to be moved to University Park. He supported the move as he was supportive of the committee. He spoke about the wonderful job that Trustee Pierce had as a committee chair. He especially spoke about the ability of having the entire committee members approve and recommend the move here. Because typically, just background with committees, it's typically 3 individuals in committees. So as long as you get 2 votes out of the 3, you can still recommend options. But this time around, all 3 of us, we recommended the move to University Park. So that's a highlight. What else? He also went on to say that he really addressed and applauded Trustee Pierce for her ability for transparency and fairness of the committee process. And I really, really like what you said there, Trustee Sullivan. And then we had Trustee Kane. As you spoke right now, you spoke about the financial burden the college would take about moving here. One of the things that he highlighted was, put money where it counts the most. He believed, put money where it counts the most, which is students and instructional programs. And then we had Chair Stoma. In summary, you congratulated us in our work as a committee. You went on to share how you would benefit the most from this particular move, but you couldn't fathom the idea of spending money for this particular item. And as such, you prefer to spend such funds on students. So here we are again, esteemed guests, discussing an item that was passed by the majority of the members of this board, an item that I presumed went on to the appropriate committee, which in this case would have been the policy committee, to recommend the amendment of the policy. If I may say, and be very open, I was not aware of this meeting. I would have loved to have listened to the arguments of the committee, much like my colleagues did during our committee meetings. When I saw the agenda, I was appalled to see that this particular 2 items resurfaced. Having said this, I continue to stand with my decision to keep the venue at University Park, not because of personal gain, but because I feel as a public servant, we are a subsidiary of the people. As such, having the venue in a location near the community, a community that represents the majority of the student population, is an advantageous idea. The opportunity to see educators and student groups attend our meetings and learn about governance is ideal. This is why I stand with my previous vote to keep this venue at University Park. Lastly, I'd like to remind my colleagues that this item does not need to come with a fiscal impact. So if we are arguing about funding, please be advised that we have the option to stay at University Park without incurring costs. Thank you.
Trustee Wilson?
Thank you, trustee Sadivar. Beautiful words, and I'm so glad that you reminded everybody of why we originally did this in the first place. Second off, Chancellor, can you tell us what the capital improvement fund is for? And are those funds used for students or instructors or anything other than what it says?
No, ma'am, and I would defer both the board counsel and the general counsel as well as the CFO, but my understanding is that capital funds like that can only be used, like it says in the name, for capital improvements. So you can't take the money that was spent either 5 years ago or what would be spent today conceivably and give it to faculty in salaries. You can't give it to students and student services. It literally is a capital rollover. And the board, for example, this year approved one of, or 2 years ago, $40 million. This last year, about $67 million. And so it's the same bucket essentially as those funds. They're capital rollover funds. And so they have to go essentially to capital improvements.
And just to echo trustee Sadivar's point, we haven't spent any money for this meeting to be here, correct?
That's correct, ma'am. And part of it is exactly to trustee Sadivar's point. One of my jobs is to read the board and pay very close attention to the board and count my votes. And so it became very obvious to me that in all likelihood, we would be right back here in December having this conversation. And so I will disclose to the board that I told my staff to spend nothing until this decision survived the election.
Okay. And also, I'm sorry, the building we were meeting in the Woodlands, has that been repaired from the storm or is it still
It has been fully repaired.
it has been fully
Yes,
repaired?
ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, sir. Chair Stump, if I be
Sure.
recognized, please.
Trustee Sutton?
Thank you. Trustee Saldivar, thank you for your comments. I feel guilty and bad for bringing this up. I really do. When you laid it out like you did, and I don't deny anything that you said that I said, or the tone or the tenor or anything, you're right, 100%. And if I could withdraw the item from the agenda and not even have a vote, I would do that. But clearly, I support you and the decision I made earlier. And I think you pointed something out really important, and that's not to revisit decisions we make if they don't need to be. So thank you for saying that. And I didn't look at it that way, but there have been some highly publicized elections that people didn't like the outcomes and they wanted to do things different. And I don't want to be that guy. So thank you for bringing it up. Thank you, Chair.
Chair,
Trustee Kane?
if I can respond to some of those comments. I think it's incumbent upon this board to make the best decisions for this college. And I think that if a decision is made at one point in time that is not in the best interest of this college, based upon circumstances that have occurred, that it is incumbent upon this board to re-examine that situation. Whether we're talking about capital funds or other funds, we have to be careful to our taxpayers, to our students, to the state for the way that we spend our money. And I would simply go back to the notion that it is not inappropriate to reconsider an inappropriate use of funding based upon a decision that may have been made earlier. We owe it to our taxpayers, we owe it to the money we receive from the state, we owe it to our students who pay tuition to make good fiscal decisions. Spending money when it is not necessary to spend the money is not acting fiscally responsible. And I think that when you walk away from a perfectly fine boardroom on Research Forest to spend money here, which you will ultimately need to do, that is being fiscally irresponsible. And it is not inappropriate to reconsider a decision in that regard.
May I?
Go ahead,
What-
trustee Sullivan.
So trustee came very respectfully. So you mentioned about funding and spending, fiscal responsibility. So my question is to Chancellor Castillo. Can this item come with no fiscal note?
Say again, please.
Can this item come with no fiscal note?
Yes, ma'am, it can. And so this
Can
goes
you
really.
explain that?
Yeah, so it goes fundamentally to the way that board agenda items are drafted, right? And so if you look at most board agenda items, they empower the chancellor or a designee to what we call in the law a not to exceed amount. And what that means is that coextensive with the authority to do a thing is the approval to spend money to do that thing. But it doesn't necessarily direct me or obligate me to spend the money. Because think about it, right? If the board approved it in September and said, let's spend $1 million, and I just told the entire board that we have spent nothing, and that I made it very clear to my staff, do not spend anything, then the only way that I could do that is if I have the discretion to spend or not spend. Otherwise, I would be insubordinate in a public setting and breach my contract, right? And so it gives me the discretion to decide what is it that we need to spend to do the thing. And most of our board agenda items are drafted that way. So conceivably, yes, ma'am, I could decide to spend nothing. And the board agenda item empowers me to do that. What it does do is it puts a cap on what the maximum amount of money would be that I could spend. And that's where we arrive at the $900,000. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Thank you.
Any other discussions? Okay, we'll go down the row on the vote of this. We'll start with trustee Mesa. Trustee Mesa, are you for, against, or abstain?
I'm against.
All right. Trustee Saldivar,
I'm against the move.
trustee Kane,
I'm for.
all right. Myself, trustee Stomo will be for. Trustee Wilson
Against.
and trustee vote.
Trustee vote.
Against.
Okay. Trustee Broussard. And trustee Sullivan.
No.
You caused a lot of work here, trustee Sullivan. Then the item fails. Item 23, I make a motion to withdraw this item. Any other,
Second.
got a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item 23 is withdrawn. Item 24, do I have a motion for discussion and vote on item 24?
Motion.
Second? Do I have a second? Okay, the floor is open for discussion.
I pulled this so we can do a roll call vote. I don't know if anybody else has discussion. Can we do
Is there any discussions on this?
If, yes, if
Oh.
I could be recognized, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Board counsel, if you could kind of walk us through only the procedure, not advice or opinion, please. What are we doing? And with the description as written.
So the proposed item is to approve postponing the reorganization of the board till the next regular board meeting, which would be February. So that's the proposed item. So right now, your motion and your second is to do that. So there's a couple of ways. You can take a vote on it. On that motion, it would require 5 votes to be approved. If that's done, then you'd be postponing. The other alternative is for somebody to propose a motion to amend the pending motion, essentially to not postpone until February. And then you take a vote on that motion, which would require 5 votes. So, but probably the straightforward way is to vote on the pending motion and see if there are 5 votes to postpone until February. Does that make sense, trustee?
It does, but I'm about to ask you a question. Why would we have to amend it? If it fails, we just go.
You could. I
Okay,
think there was a
let's
question
clarify.
about whether it would be proper to amend. But I just want to make sure everybody's clear what the current motion is to approve postponing. So I just want to make sure everybody is clear on what that is.
Okay, so if the board desires to reorganize today, how do we accomplish that? Procedurally?
You would vote no on this current motion to postpone, in which case you would then be required to move forward with the reorganization of the board today.
Okay, so it would not require an amendment. We
Correct.
simply vote no.
Correct.
If we so desire, we simply vote no, the item fails, then the
We
chair would
move
call for.
directly into the reorganization of the
Okay.
board.
Okay, all
In
right,
other words,
thank
we
you.
make nominations and we vote in
Correct.
each
And
position.
correct. And I believe we would have the script available for the
I don't have,
process.
We have the script.
you want to get them out?
It depends on whether or not we need it because of the
We're
vote.
going to need it.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we're going to vote on item 24. Again, I'll go down the list. Trustee Mesa,
I vote no.
all right, trustee Saldivar,
No.
trustee Kane,
I vote yes to postpone.
trustee Stoma will vote yes. For what it's worth. Trustee Wilson,
No.
trustee Vogt,
I vote yes.
trustee Broussard, and trustee Salvo.
No.
The item fails. So with that, we'll go into a process of reorganization and we'll need those scripts,
Yes, sir. He's bringing them.
just so they're handy, right? Just give me a minute. All right, I'm going to read this before we do anything so everybody understands. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The process is as follows. I, the presiding chair, will open the floor for nominations for chair. Trustees will then make their nominations. When a trustee is making a nomination, I am asking that trustee to state their name and then the name of the person they are nominating. Once there are no more nominations, I will announce that the nominations are closed. Once nominations are closed, I will call for a roll call vote on the first person nominated. During the roll call vote, I will call each trustee by name. with the chair rotating voting last, and ask if their vote is a or nay for the nominated person. A trustee may also choose to abstain from voting for a stated position or abstention. If a trustee is not ready to vote, they can pass and we'll come back to them after the roll call vote has completed. Any questions on any of that? Do I need to reread it? Is it clear as to what's going to happen? All righty then. I, as chair, open the floor for nominations for position of chair. Do I have any nominations?
I do.
Trustee Wilson, would you nominate?
I, Trustee Wilson, I nominate Michael Sullivan.
All right. Any other nominations? Going once, going twice? Then the nominations are closed. We're going to go ahead and take the vote anyway, Trustee Sullivan. All right. We're just going to start back with Trustee Mesa,
I vote yes.
Trustee Saldivar,
Yes.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Vogt.
Aye.
Again, sir? Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Broussard
Yes.
and Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
Really, Trustee Sullivan?
And I, Trustee Stoma, will vote aye. So you are now, sir, the new chair. You can come take your position and go forward. Need to continue for the others. Yes.
Congratulations.
Happens that quick?
There you go.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
The script is.
I didn't know.
Thank you, trustees. I'm going to continue the process and then I'll make some comments at the end if I may. The floor is now open for vice chair nominations. Please remember to state your name and then the person's name whom you are nominating.
I, Trustee Aisha Wilson, nominate, Trustee Miriam Saldivar.
Trustee Saldivar has been nominated for vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll close nominations. There are no nominations. Nominations are now closed for this position. If the only one person is nominated for the position, the presiding chair can declare the nominee elected by unanimous consent. Trustee Saldivar, you are now vice chair. Congratulations. Right? Right there? Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Okay, we'll now move to secretary election. The floor is now open for secretary nominations. Please remember to state your name and then the person's name whom you are nominating.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, trustee Broussard.
I am Trustee Broussard. I would like to nominate Trustee Wilson for Board Secretary.
Trustee Wilson has been nominated for board secretary. Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Seeing none, I will read this. If there are no more nominations, nominations are now closed for this position. If only one person is nominated for the position, the presiding chair can declare the nominee elected by unanimous consent. Trustee Wilson, you are now our board secretary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Assistant Secretary election. The floor is now open for Assistant Secretary nominations. Please remember to state your name and then the person's name whom you are nominated.
I, Trustee Wilson, nominate Trustee Broussard as Assistant Secretary.
Thank you. Trustee Broussard, you have been nominated for Assistant Secretary. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will read the script. If there are no more nominations, nominations are now closed for this position. If only one person is nominated for the position, the presiding chair can declare the nominee elected by unanimous consent. Congratulations, Trustee Broussard. You're now Assistant Board Secretary, which is a really great role. I did it once. Okay, so help me, gentlemen, if you would. May I have the floor to make comments and then move to financial report? Yes. Okay, thank you. I want to talk to my colleagues. First of all, thank you all very much. We have an exceptional board, one that I believe in, one that I'm going to listen to. I view my role as chair as a facilitator. This is your board. I want to facilitate the meetings and the work of the system and supporting the chancellor for this to continue to be the #1 community college in Texas and to pursue the goals of Aspen Institute, if I remember correct.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
As well as your other goals as stated to the board. We're going to help you achieve those goals. It's our obligation to do so. To the staff and the team, I look forward to being available to anyone who needs me, but I do follow the chain of command with the chancellor's in charge. It's his institution. I'm just facilitating as chair. So with that said, thank you very much for your support, and I hope to make you proud. If I don't, call me out, preferably in private, but feel free to do it in public if so needed. I can be pretty strong-willed. So with that said, we'll now move to agenda item financial reports. Monthly financial statements. The financial statements for the month ended are presented for board review. Ms. Ben's coming in to walk us through something. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dr. Ben.
So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations, Trustee Sullivan. So looking in your board packet, you have the financial statements as indicated that are through October 31st, 2024. So just to give you a high-level overview of the information that again is in your packet, for our revenue, we have received $57 million in state appropriations to date, reminding those that now we have a 3-pay that we did receive that allocation in October as presented by the state. We also have received $71 million through October for tuition and fees. We have $1 million in taxes, and we have received $3 million in investments. Part of the interest income for October was based off securities that was paid to the tune of $126,423. And then we also had 2 maturities in October totaling about $7.1 million in principal. So just to give you some high-level details about what we've received in terms of revenue. When you're looking at your expenditure chart, you will see that that is tracking accordingly. We have spent through October 48 million in salaries, 6 million in benefits, 13 million in services, and really de minimis amounts in the other categories. Looking at, again, just a different picture of the revenue, you can now see that there is, we've received about 25.8% of what our budgeted revenue for a total of the 132 through October of total budget allocation of 513. Again, looking at expenditures, again, this is just a different graph of what you're looking at in your packet. 71 million in actual expenditures for a total of 14.5% of budget allocation of our total of $491 million. Looking at the financial statement, you can see again, just when we're looking at the true financial statement, what we have received, what we have allocated in terms of our breakdowns. You can see that one of the things I wanted to highlight on here, because it's come up several times, either through presentations or questions, you can see on the bottom of the financial statement where we transferred the R&R transfers, the 14.5. EBC Johnson mentioned that earlier that we did, and you did as a board approve additional allocation towards R&R this year. In the past, we've allocated about 10 million to R&R, and per the chancellor's goals and an obligation that we wanted to continue to add more to that, you can see a difference there that we did put about 4.5 more million into R&R as previous years. 3 of that went to R&R, and then $1 million was allocated for paint and carpet, which under board policy is not defined as paint and carpet and those sort of things. So we did make intentionality to actually have that as a category. So just want you to see that listed on there. Additionally, in your packet that I don't have specific slides for, but I wanted to make that noted, especially with our new members, and making sure you're aware that in your meeting agenda, you also have the balance sheet, you have the statement of revenue, you have the balance sheet for Harvey, and you have our summary of investments. So those detailed schedules are in your packet. We did receive 406,291 from Harvey. It will be reported in next month, but I know that's something that we typically get asked about, and we did receive that allocation to the tune of $406,000 and a little bit. So yes, we do continue to still slowly but surely get the last residuals of Harvey in. And so you will get a more detailed report on that next month, but I did want to highlight that since we did receive that information. So if there's any questions on the financials, I'm happy. It is time to give you our annual RDA report. So I do have a brief report on that to share with you all as well, but I wanted to pause to see if there were any questions on the specific revenue or expenditures through October.
Thank you. Any questions, trustees? Seeing no questions, proceed, please. Thank you.
All right. So again, I will be brief, but several comments have been made the last couple of presentations about grants, and it's important to the system. We were very excited to hear Faculty Senate also mention that last month and about the work that our grants team does with the faculty. I do want to take a second to recognize the team, those that are still with us here, as well as those that are joining online. So thank you for all your hard work. Dr. Victoria Waters is here, who leads that team, as well as Mara, who oversees that area. So just briefly, and a more detailed report is in your packet, just some high level and what you're looking at there, because I do think they're important and they are very impactful to our students and to our faculty. So our RDA team is a small but mighty team, looking at about 14 FTEs that oversee that entire program. And I think it's important to highlight that we received $104 million this past year in grant funding. The important thing for the trustees to know is that is not money that is in our budget allocation. So that is above and beyond that. So that is typically the number one question that we get when you see the ACFR in a couple weeks, or when we present again this next go round, is that the ACFR shows a much higher level of our budget, and that's because it actually shows grant money, financial aid money, and things like this. So when we say we have $104 million that we've received in grants, that is above and beyond what is budgeted, right? So we don't actually budget the 104 as part of our annual budget allocation. So it will be reflected in the ACFR, but that is above and beyond. So when we talk about a $513 million budget, it does not include the numbers that you see here. So that is additional funds that we are able to support students, support faculty, support research, support our students, and various initiatives throughout that program. The only thing that would actually be included in the operating would be any matching funds if a grant has that. So I did want to highlight that to make sure you recognize all the hard work that the faculty and the teams go into supporting our students. So again, as you're looking at it, we did have 111 total grants that were managed, and that is a combination of local, state, as well as federal grants. And we are looking, again, to continue that track record and manage more accordingly, and looking at specific grants that help support students and student needs. So again, as we're looking at this next year, that is what we're looking at. So in addition to the 111 that they manage, 96 were routed through the campus legal teams. We had orientations for 29 different regulations, funders, and expectations. We had 18 amendments to grants. Oftentimes that is reflected when we see an increase or additional funding. And then we also had 40 additional applications for IRB approvals. So again, typical grant awards are about a 5-year process. So there's a lot of management that goes on throughout the year that has to manage and oversee the funding that comes in, as well as new funding. Happy to say that Houston North received the designation of a Hispanic Serving Institute this year. So it is our 7th campus to receive that designation, which makes them now eligible for federal Title III and V funding, which means underserved populations. And so again, round of applause for that group and the team on that. And again, just for those that are not familiar, that does require that there is a 25% undergraduate FTE enrollment of serving Hispanic students. Most of that has to be high need, which is typically means Pell Grant recipients, and it's low general education expenditure. So again, way to go for Houston North on that. And I did want to recognize that significant achievement because it is something to be proud of, and it does open up additional opportunities and funding for our students and for the campus. So looking through there, again, you have a more detailed packet in your information, but I did want to highlight those specific items for you. And if there's any questions either now or in the future, we're happy to answer any of those for you.
Yes, sir. Trustee Mason.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Viana, I wanted to ask you if you could go back to that last slide, actually, the one we were just looking at.
Sorry,
That's okay.
went the wrong way. I apologize, sir.
Yes, so I was curious as to why fiscal year 24 is low compared to the other ones. Are we still expecting to continue receiving grants through the rest of the year?
Yes, we do typically continue to receive grants, and then I can also allow the grants team to answer that as well. So you want to?
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Maura Capper. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Budget Planning and Resource Administration under the direction of Dr. Victoria Waters. Simply, that is our COVID money. That's the going down of the spending down of the COVID funds that we got, the stimulus money that we got. If you look at fiscal year 20, before we were all hit, you can see that we were only at 63, and we've grown that to 104 when we are completely depleted of all COVID funds.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to share, having worked under grants before, I worked under a grant at Baker Ripley in 2019 and 2020. And I currently actually work under a grant in the Aldine School District. So, I'd like to continue seeing more grants. As you mentioned, they, serve our students and provide increased opportunities for them. So I'd like to continue seeing more grants and more applications towards grants. And if I can help with that in any way, then I would like to do so.
Thank you. Yes, the team does tremendous work again. And again, I think it's important to recognize them. It's also important to recognize all the faculty that help write grants, the legal team who support them, and all the various partners, because it's more than just us. But yes, our goal is not necessarily just to continue to write more, but to be very strategic in the ones that we serve for, to again, look at ways that we can support our students. You've heard the chancellor say, we really want to feed our students and we make sure that they have those wraparound services, because a student that's hungry or doesn't have housing, it's hard for them to concentrate. So we're specifically interested in grants that serve our students as well as additional grants. So we are just trying to be a little bit more strategic in what we go for and then make our book go a little farther. So thank you. It's good to hear your support, and we look forward to even reaching better numbers for this year. So thank you for your questions.
Great job. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you.
And just going back again, your meeting agenda details, all the specific grants that we have and the value. So again, your packet has a lot more information. And then again, looking at the cash reserves, I did want to provide an update on that because last time we had not closed the books on that yet. So as you're looking at the numbers, we do still continue to have the 169 in reserves because we were able to roll over the additional capital to the ERP project. And so that was actually finalized. And so again, you're seeing the same for the fund reserve because we were able to roll that additional funds in. And so now there is a total of $66 million as approved set aside for the ERP and capital improvement. And that is not reflected in this reserve dollar amount. So that money is above and beyond that process. So we did finally close the books on November 18th, and we did approve that official set aside. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then your buildings and ground report is included in your packet.
Any questions on building and grounds? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
That conclude your reports. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we've gone into closed session already. We're back in regular meeting. Next board item excuse me, agenda item is suggested future agenda items. Anyone have anything they want to see on a future agenda item? If not, I have one, and this is more for the administration. Montgomery County Appraisal District ballots will be coming to us soon. Their elections are actually held in February. Harris County's was in December or November, whenever it was. So I received a text this morning asking us to be on the lookout for the ballots.
I think we did. Mike, did we get them? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
So we can, if we could put this on the February agenda, that we can vote on it, issue a resolution, and then it will, and still have time to submit it for their deadline.
Yes, sir.
Make sense?
Understood.
Okay.
Yes,
We
sir.
had 90 votes for Harris County and Montgomery County. We're the 5th largest taxing jurisdiction in Montgomery County. Think about that. 5th largest, and we're going to get 290 votes. So
Yes, sir. We'll be on the
it's,
lookout for it,
okay,
and we will
thank you.
put it on the February agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. I also want to thank, and I think he left, but I also want to acknowledge and thank Trustee Stoma for his leadership of the board while he was chair. And he will continue to serve on the board as a trustee, and will respect the work that he's done and look forward to having him being part of the team. But otherwise, congratulations, Vice Chair, Secretary, and Assistant Secretary. If I could ask the Chancellor to do this for me, please, over the next few days, if you could send a list of all committees, current standing committees, to the entire board, and then ask every trustee what committee they would like to serve on. And then we'll pull that information together, and we'll look at board policy as to how many people can serve, how many trustees can serve on a committee. I don't want to arbitrarily appoint committee members. I want committee members to serve on the committees that they want to serve on. So when you receive the email from the Chancellor, please respond to it and know that if you ask for it, you're very likely going to receive it. And if you don't ask for it and we don't have 3 members, you're very likely going to be appointed to it, because we have to have standing committees. I think there's just a couple. And then we'll do ad hoc committees throughout the year as we need to address issues that might come up.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.